Hello, welcome back. We are discussing a queue today. In our last lesson, we talked about a stack. We were able to implement a stack with either a doubly linked list or a singly linked list. It turns out you could also pretty easily do a stack with an array list and still maintain O1 time for all operations on the stack. Well, that's going to change now with the queue. So let's talk about the queue. QUEUE. It's an interface that we'll be using, and I'd like it to be able to take a generic, right? And so, while everyone agrees that a stack is push, pop, peek, not everyone really agrees with the queue interface. There's just kind of not 100% agreement. So we're going to go with these names here, but you could see them slightly different somewhere else. So we're going to say offer instead of push. And your offer is like your add. So we're going to offer things to the queue. Other words you'll hear is the word enqueue, E-N-Q-U-E-U-E, to put in line. So we're going to offer to our queue. Then when we remove from the queue, we're going to call that pull. All right, so pull is going to return an element. And then finally, instead of peek, we're going to say peek first. Okay? Just to keep it separate from the idea of peek in a stack. So offer, pull, peek first. Let's talk what they do. When you offer something to the stack, let's say we're using some integers, okay? Let's say I offer 7. We're going to call this the head or the front of the queue, all right? So that's the front. And then let's say I offer like a 3, and I offer 5, I offer 7, I offer another 7 that is, I offer an 8. So you can see we have 5 elements in our queue. So a queue is what we call FIFO. Not LIFO, FIFO. First in, first out. As opposed to a stack, which is LIFO. Last in, first out. This here is the back. So when we offer, we are offering to the back. But when we pull, we're going to pull off the front. It's also where we're going to peek. So when we pull, we'll return that and remove here. So we need to have, ideally, we want to have O1 speed at the front to remove and access the front, but we also want O1 speed to add to the back. So notice an array list would not work for that, because the array list, well, it would be fine for a stack because we can always just offer to the back or push to the back of the stack, pop from the back of the stack. We have O1 operations for an array list at the back. We can always peek first in an array list in O1, but we can't remove from an array list in O1 at the front. That would be ON, and that's very slow. So what we're going to do is not use an array list. We're not going to use a singly linked list. The singly linked list allows us to have O1 operations at the front, but adding to the back would be ON. We were able to make a stack with a singly linked list because we just continued to, whenever we pushed onto the front, and then we pulled from the front. So we're going to have to use a doubly linked list. So I want you to use a doubly linked list to make a queue that takes generics. For an added challenge, you can make what's called a deck. A deck is a class that implements both queue and stack at the same time. So you would have to make sure that you have offer, pull, peek first, push, pop, and peek. And if you think about it, there's no reason why you can't do that. So deck would be what's called a sub-interface of both queue and stack. So someone could use your class, if it implements deck, to make a queue, and they could use your class to make a stack. And by typing it as a queue or typing as a stack, they tell the readers and themselves when they're reading their code later exactly what they're using it for. So I'll leave that up to you if you want to go the extra mile to make a deck, but what I'm asking you to do in this lesson is to make a queue. And then you can bet I'm going to have a way for you to use it. All right, take care.